welcome to the X Corner. I'm here adding mutation to the Superhero Crew. I'll be covering the X comics for the week of November 14th, 2018. This week we had 2 comics, but I'm pushing Domino number 8 back to next week to cover the big one, Uncanny X-Men number 1. Spoilers, of course. So, Uncanny X-Men number 1, written by Ed Brisson, Matthew Rosenberg, and Kelly Thompson, with the art by Mahmoud Asrar, and the backup stories drawn by Mirko Kolak, Ibrahim Robertson, and Mark Bagley. We start this epic book with Madrox attacking the X-Men while chanting, "Where's Kitty Pryde?" The poor guy just got back and now he's a nutter. Then we do the obligatory rewind as we go back to earlier that day. Kitty is leading the newish X-Men on a training mission. Armor, Pixie, Rockslide, oh yeah, Anole, and Glob are complaining they're going to fight Forearm of all people. Kitty tries to explain that even though he's just a guy with 4 arms, he is threatening some pharmaceutical plant, so they have to stop him. She then loses control of her powers and phases out of the Blackbird. This causes the plane to crash into the factory they were sent to protect. We then go to Storm and Beast in Africa, where a freak rainstorm is flooding the desert, and it's also showing signs of other unnatural things. Back to the newish X-Men as they climb out of the crash, with Pixie and Anole hurt, and then they're attacked by the Mutant Liberation Front. The terrorists say that they're trying to destroy the plant since it's making a vaccine that will wipe out mutations in future generations. The X-Men are fighting and losing. Suddenly Madrox is there and he slaps Anole awake and asks where Kitty is. When Anole says she disappeared before falling unconscious again, Madrox runs off saying he was too late. Just as the newish X-Men are about to be beaten, Polaris and X-23 show up, and X-23 beats the MLF single-handedly. We then go to Manhattan, where some evil politician is announcing the mutant vaccine. The X-Men are incognito in the crowd, and Kitty is supposed to address the crowd to counterpoint the racist politician. She is of course missing, so Jean steps up to do it, but before she can, a crazed Madrox takes the mic and starts to rant. Suddenly a wave of Madrox's attack, and they seem to want to get to the politician. Madrox claims he is trying to help, but before he can grab the politician, the guy disappears, and once again Madrox says he's too late. We then cut to Kitty and the politician tied to chairs. He accuses her of kidnapping him, and she is like, "I'm tied up here too, you know." Her powers aren't working, and we get a voice-off panel, and we expect it to be the guy who kidnapped them, only to discover Apocalypse tied up too. There's a lot going on here, and a lot of questions which first issue should set up. I liked all the character stuff, and you could see each of the writers' little touches on them. The whole mutant cure idea is a little tropey, but they even pointed out in the issue, as Jubilee says, "Have we heard this before?" The art was better than I expected from Asrar. He didn't do very well in the X-Men Red, but here he seemed to get a better hold of the characters. Psylocke's reveal of her new psi weapons was particularly good, and now I can't wait for her to get her old armor back. Overall, it was a first issue, not much more to go on there. I do wish they had resolved the extermination story before this came out, but as we know in comics, nothing ever lines up right. I'm excited to get this every week and curious how far ahead they have this drawn to keep that on schedule. Now on to the backups. The first backup is a Bishop story, and as all these are, it's a prelude to the main story. Bishop has been warned of a time anomaly and is staking out the Dark Beast, whom the anomaly seems to be centered on. Someone attacks the Dark Beast, but by the time Bishop gets there, he only finds a random burning body and the Dark Beast is gone. He then gets taken to another anomaly and finds Sugarman, who is also from an alternate reality like the Dark Beast. Sugarman is scared, but before Bishop can figure out what's going on, he is blasted from the behind and knocked out. He awakes to find Sugarman dead. Next we have Jean Grey's story, with Jean in a coffee shop waiting for Storm. An old woman sits down and starts discussing how crappy the news and the world in general is. Before Jean can respond, the woman disappears and Storm comes in. Suddenly the patrons of the coffee bar get glowing eyes and start to manifest powers, and they attack the 2 ex-women. The next story is Anole in armor on crappy duty in the sewers. See what I did there? That's a twofer. They're tracking some kind of monster in the sewers. It turns out to be Dark Beast who attacks them. Armor pins the Dark Beast to a wall, but he jabs her armor with something that makes it go away for a moment and he escapes. They're about to give chase when Jean calls them for help. They get above ground to find the women being attacked by superpowered civilians. Jean says someone is controlling them, and that someone is psychically talking to her, telling her that they didn't want to fight. They do fight though, until the old woman who Jean was talking to in the coffee bar is buried under a falling wall, and then the attacks cease. But from the shadows, someone who looks just like the injured woman looks on and says this is just the beginning. She then turns away and shapeshifts. So at first I thought these would be separate stories, so when Dark Beast showed up in the Enola and Armor story, it was a nice surprise. It all tied together, and I'm sure it will make sense once we get a handle on what and who is happening. The art in these stories was good, and the changing of artists from story to story was subtle enough not to take me out of it, especially since the last story was the part that tied it all together. So we have a powerful psychic and a shapeshifter. One would give some Mystique and maybe Emma, but unfortunately I think the future cover reveals have taken some of the mystery out of it. I won't spoil it here, but do avoid looking at those covers. I sure wish someone had warned me. Overall, this was an epic scale book to start off with the weekly Uncanny X-Men run. I do also like the legacy number on the cover, number 620. I have confidence these writers can wrangle this story, and I hope the art can keep up. The price tag may have been hefty at $7.99 for 65 pages, although I got the digital director's edition, which was 290 pages, for the same price. It had a cover gallery for all the alternate number 1 covers, and the covers up to issue 8, hence the spoiler warning for them. It also had character designs, with more spoilers, and a full script of the issue, as well as the whole issue in inked and colored versions, which make for some great wallpapers. The rest of the series will be regular price, so I have no issue for this. It was worth it for the size, even without the extras. Overall, I liked the issue. It wasn't as good as the first Extermination issue, but it sets up the stage adequately. I see people complain that it's too hard to follow, and to that I say, listen to X-Corner, and you'll be right up to speed. So I'll give this one a 7.5 out of 10, but I expect it to rise as the series progresses. I'd like to pay my respects to Stan Lee. He passed away this week at the age of 95, and oh, what a life he led. Without him, we wouldn't have much in the way of entertainment nowadays. But where this show is concerned, we wouldn't have the X-Men. For that, and everything else, I'd just like to say thanks, Stan. We'll be back next week for more of this, as well as the regular books. As I said, I'll cover Domino since I know it'll be great, and I want to talk about it. See you in the future. Excelsior!